So I'm starting this YouTube channel, mostly because I hate myself. And usually I'm into like movies or TV shows, but recently I haven't been feeling them that much. It's just been a lot of slop and slop and slop, and occasionally something really good, but mostly slop. That is until one of my friends recommended that I read this little book called The Secret History, and it ignited a whole world for me because I have not been reading for many years. The last books I read full on were the Harry Potter books. Before that, it was the Warrior Cat books, and I am mentally way past those. And The Secret History is awesome. I love this book. And in this YouTube channel, I'll be talking about several different books I've been reading across the past few days. Hopefully I'll read more. My friend recommended this book to me. I didn't think that much of it, but then I was placed on a cruise with terrible, terrible Wi-Fi because cruises are an evil place. And on one of the stops in this cruise in remote Alaska, I entered a bookstore and saw The Secret History. My friend recommended me that book. I should try it out. So I read it on the cruise, and oh my gosh, it's peak. The Secret History is a dark academia thriller written by Donna Tartt. It was written in the 1990s, so it was way before all those book talk trends and stuff like that. It follows Richard, who's going to a prestigious college and finds a secretive class studying ancient Greece that may or may not have something to do with the dark arts. Now, before I go any further, I highly, highly, highly recommend you read this book on your own. That's what I did, and I had a great time unraveling this book. Essentially, this book is super layered and super complex, and that's what I love about it. There are tons of different interpretations you can pull from the different events, but the main thing to note is that you can't really trust everything in the book because there's layers to how fictitious it is. The book itself is fiction, but the author writing the book is also fictitious. Not Donna Tartt herself, but the person recounting the events in the book. We have to see everything through the fictitious mind of Richard, if that makes sense. So that leads there to be certain biases in the way we perceive the events in the book. Because let me get one thing straight. The kids in this book are insane, and they are evil. But the way this book unravels that is absolutely amazing. I wasn't super hooked by the first 100 pages, but as it went on, the pretentiousness I didn't really like before kind of gave way to this interesting, like, psychological thriller. And the writing in this book is absolutely amazing. There's so many great sequences, there's so many great lines, and now I'm going to spoil everything. Because like I said before, the people in this book are crazy. You're seeing the perspective of this book from Richard, who is a manipulated man who is okay and complacent with first-degree murder. Because from the get-go of this book, it says, oh, the gang killed this guy named Bunny, who is part of them. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, what did Bunny possibly do to deserve being murdered by this? And the answer is nothing. Because you see things through the perspective of Richard, you kind of rationalize the idea of killing this Bunny guy for basically no reason. The real villain in this book is Henry Winters. Henry Winters is evil incarnate, and there are so many people that defend this man because he's like a sexy, quiet beast, which I kind of understand, but at the same time, he is low-key a murdering sociopath, and there's literally no other way to go around this. If you look at the events of this book through the idea that Henry is basically manipulating everyone in the class and has created a cult on his own, everything makes sense. Basically, he's obsessed with Julian, and Julian is obsessed with romanticization. Henry decides, you know what, I have this little cult of people, Camilla, Charles, Francis, Bunny, Richard wasn't in there yet. You know what, we're gonna go get drunk and we're gonna they were trying to elevate themselves to a higher level of existence and leave their own sense of self by getting drunk in the woods. And Bunny is like, this is stupid. And so the one time they don't invite Bunny to this, it actually works. Surprise, surprise, Bunny was the only one tying them to any sense of reality. They get drunk in the woods, they go through psychosis, and then they kill a guy. But as we see later on, Henry basically killed this guy, and he basically did it because he was bored and he enjoyed it. That's strike one for Henry Winters. Bunny ends up finding out about this, and then he starts teasing them about this, which again goes into what I think Henry's psychology is. Henry likes to romanticize this event, but Bunny, when he hears this, is like, yo, you guys got drunk and killed a farmer. And Henry does not like that one bit. And because Bunny might potentially turn them in, and Bunny kept reminding Henry of what they actually did and didn't romanticize it, Henry decided, you know what, I'm bored, I'm gonna kill Bunny next. And this is where the gang goes beyond any sense of sympathy for me, because they are all complacent in the murder of Bunny. And what you can see is that Richard basically tries to justify it by just saying that Bunny was an asshole. So now Henry has killed 2 people, strike 2, both in cold blood, and also he killed a dog, so that's strike 3. Henry, he's evil. And yeah, Henry is basically insane after that. He decides he's gonna maybe kill Charles, but that's when something interesting happens. A letter by Bunny himself is delivered to Julian the professor, and Henry confesses to Julian what happened, and Julian flees, which breaks Henry. Because Henry idolized this guy, Julian, so much about the romanticization of everything, but when Julian saw what they did, he saw it for what it was, which was getting drunk in the woods and then killing a guy, and then killing their friend because they didn't like him. And Julian is also a bad guy because he did this purely to protect himself rather than actually getting justice for either of the two murdered people. But that sense of selfishness is really what breaks Henry. And then he's like, you know what, my life is no point, my idol left me, so he kills himself. Which, by the way, he really wanted to die, because, I mean, he shot himself twice. That's actually kind of impressive. He romanticizes his own death, which is kind of goated, and now the gang still romanticizes this guy, even after he's dead. Besides that, I really enjoyed all the other characters. I thought they were all really interesting. Francis was probably my favorite of the gang, even though he also was complacent with murder two different times, and he also was okay with incest, which is not good. My favorite sequence in the book definitely has to be when Richard is alone in the winter, because it shows how much Richard depends upon this gang for his new sense of self. He hated what his life was in California. He's shed that identity, and now he's in this new prestigious college, and when they've all left, he has no sense of self, and he's completely lost in this winter. And then Henry comes and saves him, because Henry, like I said before, is a little cult leader, and he comes and saves Richard and brings him back into their gang and romanticizes him again. Not in that way. Well, maybe in that way. It's a very gay book. There's a lot of discussion of this book online. I see a lot of people saying that they were rationalizing and sympathizing with the murder. I really wasn't one of those people. I kind of took it as it was. I was like, okay, they're murdering Bunny. That could not be good in any context. Literally nothing Bunny did deserved that. And the gang doesn't even want to go back on it. Richard still justifies it. He's just like, yeah, we just had to kill Bunny. Like, no, you didn't. You didn't have to kill that guy. You have free will. You could have just left. But no, you chose to stick with these guys, with this cult. And the biggest indication that Henry is running a cult is that when he dies, it immediately disbands. Immediately, they just don't talk to each other and they separate. It was Henry holding everyone together. Yeah, my friend that recommended this to me, she was like, I love Henry. He's just broken, you know? She said Henry was a morally gray character. And I was flabbergasted because Henry is like evil. I absolutely love this book. I hope there's a movie adaptation one day or a TV series or something because it's got a great vibe to it. It got me interested in the genre of dark academia, but then the one I was recommended after this was called If We Were Villains, and I read the first 20 pages and it was god awful. So I probably won't be that big into this genre. I'm more of a sci-fi horror type guy. 10 out of 10. Please read. Bunny, Francis, you guys are the GOAT.